Hey, what's up, all y'all Israelites and all strangers who soldier with us? It's your boy, Yah's chosen one, and so are you. We're in a great book of Jasher. We're in chapter 40. We're in chapter 44 and verse 45. And remember, we're at a time where Joseph is trying to stay away from Zelicah, that is Pharaoh's wife, but she is like obsessed with Joseph and is trying to do anything in her power to get Joseph to sleep with her. And Joseph is doing everything in his power to stay away from her. So we'll go to verse 45. For he hath also greatly honored me in his house, and he hath also made me overseer over his house, and he hath exalted me, and there is no one greater in this house than I am. And my master hath refrained nothing from me, excepting thee who art his wife. How then canst thou speak these words unto me? And how can I do this great evil and sin to the Almighty and to thy husband? And notice he said to the Almighty. See, Joseph is still a Hebrew. He's not an Egyptian, even though Egyptians are, they'd be trifling to sleep with other men's wives because, as we're gonna see when they go into slavery, that's what they did. When we go into slavery, that's what they did. They raped our women and stuff like that. But Joseph is still Hebrew. He still knows the laws. The laws were given to the Israelites, and we are to be people are to look up to us. All right, verse 46. Now therefore refrain from me and speak no more such words as these, for I will not hearken to thy words. But Zelicah would not hearken to Joseph, whom when he spoke these words unto her, but she daily enticed him to listen to her. She just wanted to look upon him, and she wanted him, man. She lusted after him. And it was after this that the brook of Egypt was filled above all its sides, and all the inhabitants of Egypt went forth. And also the king and princes went forth with timbrels and dances, for it was a great rejoicing in Egypt, and a holiday, a holy day, at the time of the inundation of the sea, Sihor, and they went there to rejoice all the day. So these were the kind of things that Egyptians were, having merry festivals. So these were their holy days. It's a day to honor like earthly things. This one in particular was the sea. So there's many gods in Egyptology. So don't follow the ways of Egyptology. And when the Egyptians went out to the river to rejoice, as was their custom, all the people of the house of Potiphar went with them, but Zelicah would not go with them, for she said, I am indisposed. And she remained alone in the house, and no other person was with her in the house. So she plotting, she scheming. And she rose up and ascended to her temple in the house, and dressed herself in princely garments. And she placed upon her head precious stones of onyx, stones inlaid with silver and gold, and she beautified her face and skin with all sorts of women's purifying liquids. And she perfumed the temple and the house with cassia and frankincense. And she spread myrrh and aloes, and she afterwards sat in the entrance of the temple, in the passage of the house, through which Joseph passed to do his work. And behold, Joseph came from the field, and entered the house to do his master's work. So, Joseph wasn't doing all that celebrating and stuff, man. Joseph's out there doing work, man. He had time for all that praising the sea and stuff like that. Remember, he's still a Hebrew. And it came to the place through which he had to pass, and he saw all the work of Zelicah, and he turned back. And Zelicah saw Joseph turning back from her, and she called out to him, saying, What aileth thee, Joseph? So we read this in Genesis 39, verse 10 through 11. Come to thy work, and behold, I will make room for thee until thou shalt have passed to thy seat. And Joseph returned and came to the house, and passed from thence to the place of his seat. And he sat down to do his master's work as usual, and behold, Zelicah came to him and stood before him in princely garments. And the scent from her clothes was spread to a distance. She was smelling off the chain. When you see a female that approaches you, and you're like, oh my God, what, it's enticing, man. And Joseph, and she hastened and caught hold of Joseph and his garments. And she said unto him, As the king liveth, if thou wilt not perform my request, thou shalt die this day. And she hastened and stretched forth her other hand and drew a sword from beneath her garments. And she placed it upon Joseph's neck. And she said, Rise and perform my request, and if not, thou diest this day. Man, you talk about a woman wanting it, man. And you know, some people say, you know, well, why'd you do it? You know, why'd you have sex with that woman? Did she put a gun to your head? In this case, yes, she put a sword to this dude's neck. And Joseph was afraid of her at her doing this thing, and he rose up to flee from her. That's in Genesis 39, verse 12 through 13. And she seized the front of his garments. I bet she did. And in the terror of his flight, the garment of which Zelicah seized was torn. And Joseph left the garment in the hand of Zelicah, and he fled and go out, for he was in fear. Like I said, that's in Genesis 39, 12 through 13. And when Zelicah saw that Joseph's garment was torn, and that he had left it in her hand, and had fled, she was afraid for her life, lest the report should spread concerning her. And she rose up and acted with cunning, and put off the garments in which she was dressed, and she put on her other garments. And she took Joseph's garment, and she laid it beside her, and she went and seated herself in the place where she had sat in her illness, before the people of her house had gone out to the river. And she called a young lad who was then in the house, and she ordered him to call the people of the house to her. And when she saw them, she said unto them with a loud voice and lamentation, See what a Hebrew your master has brought to me in this house, for he came this day to lie with me. He lying. Genesis 39, verse 14. For when you had gone out, he came to the house, and seeing that there was no person in the house, he came unto me, and caught hold of me, with intent to lie with me. That's verse 15, that old nasty whore. And I seized his garments and tore them and called out against him with a loud voice. And when I had lifted up my voice, he was afraid for his life and left his garment before me and fled. You see that? That old lying whore. And the people of her house spoke nothing, but their wrath was very much kindled against Joseph. And they went to his master and told him the words of his vow. And Potiphar came home in rage, and his wife cried out to him, saying, What is this thing that thou hast done unto me in bringing a Hebrew servant into my house? For he came unto me this day to sport with me. Thus did he do unto me this day. And Potiphar heard the words of his wife, and he ordered Joseph to be punished with severe stripes. And they did so to him. That's in Genesis 39, 16 through 19. So we don't know if these... Yeah, he got beat, man. He got beat. And whilst they were smiting him, Joseph called out with a loud voice, and he lifted up his eyes to heaven, and he said, O Yah, the Almighty, thou knowest that I am innocent of all these things. And why shall I die this day through falsehood, by the hand of these uncircumcised wicked men whom thou knowest? And whilst Potiphar's men were beating Joseph, he continued to cry out and weep. And there was a child there, 11 months old. And Yah opened the mouth of the child, and he spake these words before Potiphar's men, who were smiting Joseph, saying, What do you want of this man? And why do you do this evil unto him? My mother speaketh falsely and uttereth lies. Thus was the transaction. And the child told them accurately all that happened, and all the words of Zelicah to Joseph day after day did he declare unto them. And all the men heard the words of the child, and they wondered greatly at the child's words. And the child ceased to speak and became still. What a phenomenon that must have been, man. If the Most High can open up a donkey's mouth to speak, surely he can open up this 11-month child to speak. Because he's Yah. There are so many things that Yah has to show us, man. I mean, you can have all the science that you want and everything like that, but there's so many things that Yah is going to show us, man. If we just hold on strong, there's things that we're going to see. And there's things that he's promised to us that we can see. And, you know, this baby speaking at 11, that's just That's nothing. The Most High, there's so many things that we're gonna be able to see, man. If you just hold on, man. Everlasting life is ahead of you, man. If you just hold on. All right, we're gonna go to 70, verse 70. And Potiphar was very much ashamed at the words of his son, and he commanded his men not to beat Joseph any more. And the men since beating Joseph. So Potiphar knew this. So this is Zelicah's and Pharaoh's baby, and the baby is speaking. And Potiphar was ashamed because he knew. I guess he knew his wife was a hoe. And Potiphar took Joseph and ordered him to be brought to justice before the priests, who were judges belonging to the king, in order to judge him concerning this affair. And Potiphar and Joseph came before the priests, who were the king's judges, and he said unto them, Decide, I pray you, what judgment is due to a servant, for thus has he done. All right, we'll start right there, verse 70. And Pharaoh's kind of weak. I know he has all the power, but either he's weak or he's just embarrassed that his wife is a hoe. That's what it all boils down to. I think he's just embarrassed that his wife is a hoe, and so he sent it to these judges, I would say, and obviously we know the outcome is going to be. That's what it is. It's your boy, Yah's chosen one, man. All times, Hebrews, we have the power, even though right now it doesn't seem that way, but each and every day you're going to see people leaning more and more toward you for guidance, man. This world is spiritually wrecked, and they're going to reach for you for guidance. So strengthen yourself, man. Gird yourself with the word. All right, shalom.